Hello everybody, my name is Funmi and this is Public Eye. Today's topic is going to be around the issue of consumer rights in electricity. Nigeria has been battling with the issue of providing good electricity supply to millions of homes for decades. It would appear to be one of the albatrosses around the nation's neck. In the past few decades, a lot of work has gone into the area of unbundling and privatization, or even transitioning from one name to the other for the electricity sector in Nigeria. However, regardless of all the work done, it would appear that neither electricity nor justice has come to millions of homes in Nigeria. Therefore, today's show will be looking at how to bring either electricity or justice to Nigerians. Before we start, we'll do what we normally do, and I'll play you a video to set the tone for the conversation.
It's a bitter experience for business owners at the electronic wing of the popular wired market in Calabar, Cross River State, as they look upon what was once a bazaar of electronic appliances replaced by charred remains. The traders are left with feelings of anger, sorrow, and devastation as they attempt to put out the raging fire.
I was in my house when someone just come in. There is fire in the market, so I have to run, and I only run to go to the fire service. I went to the state fire service. They said their vehicle is not in order and they don't have water. I have to go to airport fire service. Still the same thing. They said there is no vehicle that they cannot come. So we are very confused. We don't know what to do.
Police operatives arrived at the scene to prevent hoodlums from looting shops untouched by the fire.
Here's a fire don't enter market for street. We come to check. Securities don't come on leave market. They say they don't call fire service. Fire service say car don't spoil. Say now waiting me are here. And so we are trying our effort, our best, at least to break up some shops, to remove some things. The police securities are there to secure the goods, these things, materials outside, so that it will be easy for this thing, so that the marketers will not lose. We have been able to rescue about 7 shops, but most of those shops there, over there, have been consumed by fire. We are using water and Omo, but there is not much water. There is not enough water to use for the quenching of this fire. So we don't know. We are just trying to the fire service to come to our rescue to help, because this fire is too big. It's too big from inside park, from park there where they used to park cars to this side. The fire is too much.
The cause of this fire is NEPA light.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
This is NEPA light.
Yes.
Now NEPA light. And if this fire they spread very, very fast, now because of that NEPA light, there is no system of security of light in this Maria market.
They appeal to the government to come to their aid as their source of livelihood have gone up in flames.
With over 100 shops are burnt down here. Billions of naira are gone. People are crying. Look at people crying over there. Look at the fire everywhere. The fire is still burning. Many people are wounded here. So please, we are begging the government to come and help us.
There is a promise from the government to victims that intervention packages are on the way.
Basically, what we're doing now is to see how we can now have exact figures of what really went wrong and the traders are affected. That will enable us to see how we can quantify what to give to who. Because the governor is very passionate about what has just happened, and he's not saying that, okay, move in there and see how you can resolve it. That's why I'm here.
It's a sad occasion for these traders as they continue to hope that the help promised by the state government comes in time.
Right, welcome back. And that's the rather tragic case of a fire outburst that was said to have been caused by some sort of bad connection. This, in addition to many incidences of poor power supply and other unethical practices. To have the conversation with me this morning, at least this part of the conversation, are the people who have been affected and the people who are fighting for those who have been affected. So I'm going to start my introduction from my left-hand side. Mr. Adetayo Adegbemie is a social commentator, a political analyst, consumer rights advocate who founded Power Up Nigeria. Mr. Adetayo.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Very good to see you. You seem awfully quiet for somebody who's a firebrand.
I'm sure
it will come out as we go.
We are warming up.
We are warming up. All right. I mean, aside from that, it's been cases of areas where there have been blackouts for days, for months, some for years. In the studio with us is the chairman of the Residents Association for Waterview Estate, Ishashi, Iboko in Akuti here. They have been without electricity for almost a year or about a year. Mr. Olawale Augustine Olalusi is with us today. How are you,
I'm
Mr.?
fine, ma.
Do you prefer me to call you Olawale or Augustine?
Both.
Both of them, as it comes to me, as
Yes.
they say, as the spirit leads,
Yes.
I shall call you. Correct me if I'm wrong. Your estate has been without power, had been without power for how long?
It's 1 plus.
8 months plus. Interesting. Interesting. All right, I'm going to start with you. Adetayo, what is it with us and light, electricity?
Wow. At some point, when you do something and you get back home and just sit down and ask yourself, what exactly is it? What is it about? Why do we keep having these challenges? I believe the first thing is that we don't have a national interest. That common interest, right, that speaks to our commonwealth. So until we're able to find a way around that and address the issue in such a way that we can have something that addresses everybody, that comes to, address the interest of everybody in Nigeria. At that point, we can start talking about.
It would have appeared that electricity is the one thing that affects the interest of everybody in Nigeria. Nobody, since I was born, and I'm not young, I have never seen a situation in Nigeria where there was good electricity supply for anyone, anywhere. I want to go back to what we just saw. Are you familiar, for example, with that case, from Cross River State?
This particular case, no. But I have a list of other similar cases that I'm very privy of.
Yeah.
The
statistics we have is that even since privatization, there has been an upsurge in the number of electrocutions.
That's because the quality of our electricity keeps getting poorer. When you say quality, it's not just in terms of quantity of supply, it's also in terms of, technical people who understand when you're talking about frequency and everything. Now, when you have a spike, is when you have a voltage spike. A frequency change, voltage spike, sparks off something in the house and the house gets on fire. Let me speak to this issue, this case, for instance, this video that we just watched. Part of the challenges we have in this country is that we use substandard materials. We use unqualified engineers to do our wirings.
Why is there a spike in electrocutions and other domestic accidents related to the supply of electricity into a home and other antecedents, despite privatization?
All right, I just laid the foundation now. First and first, the quality of materials that we use to do electricity. Now, when we're talking about even that, we also have to consider the quality of materials that we import from China. That is on one end, right? Now, on the other end is this. In the old NEPA days, they come to your house physically to take your readings. There is this green card. They will write the figure. They will drop, your own card, whatever. You don't even have to be at home. They will come and do that. The first thing that they did with privatization is to let go of most of these guys, the experienced ants. So even when you want to take a new connection, for instance, what they will do is they will just come to your house. Okay, you have a maid. They run your cable. Some people buy this big reclaimed cable to take light into a very poor thing. Now, in the old days, we have qualified engineers that can look at what you have. What we have under privatization these days is they will tell you that you need a LECAN certificate. That's when you're applying for whatever, a LECAN. LECAN is a body of electrical engineers, artisans, that you must get a stamp. We all know what Nigeria is today. You can get that stamp from anywhere. Nobody vets all these kind of things. So it's both ways. We have the quality of electricity coming in. We have the quality of the job that is being done in our apartment. So we have to be able to balance that conversation. Now, if you go to court, even if you have a case of fire outbreak due to voltage spike, and you go to court, part of the things that you'll be looking out for is, one, who did your wiring?
part of consumer rights ought to have been, I think, at that time, or even employment rights, is to have protested vigorously that you cannot just let people off. But we'll come back to that. Let me come to the other end of it, and that is that we don't even get the light anyway. Before the light kills you, let us
You
even
must
get
have it
it.
first.
Abi?
That's true.
If you don't get the light, it cannot even kill you.
That's true.
Okay. Your estate is very interesting.
Yes.
What did you people do wrong?
I would say nothing, because for the past 5 years it has been bad. It's gone from bad to worse and to worse to what we have to today. Because I remember in like about 2015, the transformers that we have was 500 kVA, and the community that they put on it was about 5 community. They put 5 community on it: Mount Community, Moonlight, the Wire Giant, some other, and about 3 other community that they put on it. Now the load on the transformer is much. We have over 350 houses on that transformer, on that 500 kV transformer, and you have a lot of illegal connections that was going on, which I can say that that was not done by individuals, was still done by the NEPA. Well, okay, the name is now Ikeja Electricity. Why? Because nobody could know. There's no one that will go and do that connection without involving the people that is giving us the light. So for a while, for the past 5 years, it has been up and down for us, until recently that around January this year, that it became worse. Because in January, we could not even say whether we had light for about 7. You cannot even count 7 days that we had in total for the whole month. And the thing became so terrible that so we had to just call the authority, call the Akute substation. We had to call them and ask them what is really happening. So they said, okay, something was fault inside the transformer. I said, it has been like this for over years. There are times that that the 5 community will contribute monies together to buy oppriser, to do a lot of things, to buy cables, to fix, to do a lot of things like that. So we have always been doing these things, and these things has not changed. We have always told you that maybe you need to give us an additional transformer with this one, so that because it's not the same set of people that started using the transformer that are here now. So you need to provide more support for us, at least bringing additional one to us. But even the one we are using is not even functioning well. But they kept telling us, okay, that they will repair it until they call us for a meeting, and we're in that meeting, and the next thing we heard was that they have gone to remove the transformer. Completely. And since then till now, nothing has been done, or just what they are telling us is that we need to pay up that the whole area is owing about 42 million, and we need to pay a certain amount of money for them to bring the transformer back, which majority of these bills that they are telling us that we are owing were estimated billings, which we have showed them over the times. We have shown them that, okay, that even the times that the transformer was not working, you were just giving us excessive billing. So how do you expect people to come back and pay the same amount? Now you're telling us until we pay certain amount of money now, the transformer will not come back. And we have been like this for the past more than
almost
8 months.
A year, right? Was the power better before or after the
it was even worse.
It was worse. So really, the choice of transformer was not informed by any data to show this is what is needed or what's not needed.
Even that transformer,
yeah.
even that transformer, people contributed some certain amount of money for that transformer, for this one that they took off.
Okay, that was a long way to go. But that's where we are.
That's true.
What do you make of all of this?
I've always been saying this. In fact, I said it recently on that program. When a disco tells you, we brought in so much investment, ask them, what exactly did you do? As we speak today, I have a database of about 500 people from different locations in this country that have applied for transformers for years and they've not been given, that they contributed money by themselves to buy. In fact, there's a place very close to Lagos here, on this Ibadan Expressway in Magboro. If you go to Magboro, about for Mowe, all the residents in all those places bought their transformers, bought their cables, bought their poles, and did their installations by themselves. All IBDC had to do was just come and hook them up. And it took some lobbying and pushing before we even got to that
You
point.
pay for the installations.
You understand? And even when you buy a transformer, they will still tell you must pay before they can come and install it for you. I mean, the idea behind privatization is that people that have funds can come in and make the sector better. You need transformers, we fix it. You need meters, you fix it. You need cabling, we fix it. But unfortunately, that's not what we have experienced with our discos. Most of them came in with the mindset of, oh, it's a gold mine. Let us go there and pick money. I mean, and you see, it's unfortunate because they are the only points of entry for money in the power sector. They're the ones, generators will generate. They will go and buy their raw materials, whether they're using gas or they're using coal or whatever. They will go and buy the raw materials. Cash down. They will generate. Transmission will take it and bring it to the discos. All the discos are doing are wait to collect these things. And yet, they're the ones that are complaining, no funds, they don't have money, they don't do this. But when you ask them, how many transformers have you bought in the last 1 year? You won't get responses. It was because they couldn't fix metering. That's why we say, you know what? If they can't fix metering, and this thing is private, it's called, we're saying power sector reform, right? Reform basically means that if we sit down like this and we see that it's not working, we'll change it around. And again, that doesn't mean we have to leave this place, but we'll keep moving it until it works. So if privatization says, give it to private sectors to run so that it can get better, and it's not getting better, then look at, all the bolts and nuts and try and change them. One of them is metering. Take metering away from the discos, since they don't have the funds for it. From day one that they resumed, that's their noise. The next thing they did by 2014 was to say that, by 2014, 2015, to say that foreign exchange has, increased, and because of that, they don't have the capital resources to bring in meters anymore. Okay, since that's the problem, why can't the federal government take this thing away from them? I mean, you want to change your handset, for instance. If it drops now and you want to change it, well, you go to the market, buy whichever one you like, right? It's because they all meet specification for any telecommunications in Nigeria. You can just remove your SIM and put on that SIM and it works. Why can't you do the same thing with meters? I need meters tomorrow morning. The one in my house got burnt. But I don't want you guys to put me on your crazy estimated billing. I walk into a meter provider and say, give me another meter. Yeah, I mean, you bring it, you process it, code it, do whatever, put in the old meter number into it, and it moves. Now, we got to that point, federal government came up, that's where this MAP regulation came from, so that people can buy meters. But yet, these guys are still going around, doing all sorts of things to frustrate that kind of
I was going to say, lots of that, we have somebody we're going to discuss that with who was part of the whole process of privatization. I mean, he's no longer part of it because I've wondered about the electricity privatization in particular. Once again, if you use the example of the telcos, you couldn't even come and start unless you had enough money to put the infrastructure in place. So I don't know what's wrong with the electricity sector, and we will ask him. But in particular with their case, I was wondering what is possible, in terms of advocacy, in terms of, even the tenants and landlords in that area and all the areas you have described. It seems that Nigerians don't think or don't know, or there isn't any recourse for people. Let me start with you again. What have you done since then as a community to try and resolve this situation?
As a community, we have, at least affecting the 5 communities now, we have had several meetings with the manager at Akute, and what he keeps saying is that the money needs to come in. That's one of their major point that they keep discussing with us, that we need to bring the money in, that we need to bring that 4.2 million naira in. Now, until we bring it in, that transfer cannot come back.
4.2 or 42 million?
No, they said 42 million first. Then I came up with the formula that's okay, that if you can bring 10% of that money, that they will bring the transformer back. And in saying that, the device means that okay, we should pay the January bill, then multiply it by 2. That means if your January bill is 10,000 naira, you multiply it by 2, you pay 20,000 naira. You pay 20,000 naira. Even though some people went ahead to do this payment, but some other people felt that okay, even the bills you gave to me was overestimated. So why should I go ahead and pay? And not just pay for 1 month. Even the 1 month they are asking me for, that you say we should pay, was not, we didn't even use the lights. We didn't use this electricity during this period. And that's okay, we should multiply it again by 2 and pay. So people are feeling that this is just too
So it
much.
feels a bit like they are pulling the figures out of thin air.
Yes.
Basically, it
But
feels like a shake-up.
When he was telling me earlier, the question I asked him was there an audit that was carried out to say you guys are actually owing that 42 million? But you see, let me speak to what to their particular situation. I noticed from all the questions you've asked him, and even all the conversations that we've had, your engagement has been limited to the Akute office, maybe to an extreme end to the Ikeja Lausa head office. Now, let me ask: has anybody pulled out? Have you heard of a document called Customer Complaint Resolution Procedure?
Yes,
There is a customer complaint procedure. The moment you complain about your transformer not working, they have a window of 14 days to respond to you by law. Of course, we have the Electric Power Sector Reform Act that contains the customer complaint procedure is one of the documents in the Electric Power Sector Reform Act 2005. Now, under that act, 14 days, the moment you report any electricity complaint, make any electricity complaint to any of the discos, they have 14 days to windows to respond. If they don't respond after that 14 days, right, you escalate it to the NERC forum office. Now, even if you're not satisfied with whatever judgment you get from the forum office, then you cannot even take it to the head office in Abuja. Your issue, for instance, now, the best thing, thank God you're the chairman, the next best thing for you to do as you're getting home is to write everything that you have done, right? All your engagement with the disco, how you have tried to reach out to them, their demands, how far you have gone, put all these things together and take it to the forum office. You'll be surprised that the day you get to the forum office, within 1-2 weeks, you have a problem resolved.
Something is happening here that I really find exciting. Because I can see the amount of energy you put into the work you do. I can feel the amount of frustration you feel facing what you're facing. You represent a large percentage of Nigerians. In traveling around Nigeria throughout the years, engaging people, one of the things I found, one, as I said, is people don't even know how to engage the system and how to follow up, and two, they have no faith that would happen anyway.
So I was going to put a question to him, like, okay, we talked about prepaid meters.
Okay.
Recently, I remember I did for about 3 people on the map, registering for them, and they are paid. And for the past 2 months, nothing is being said about it.
Again, on that particular issue, let me say this.
Nothing has been said about it. So we and these people keep asking, what is happening? If we are paid for something, we should have it. And the other end, they're just saying they are coming. And this is going to be about 3 months before you know it's become a year.
I have people that have paid since last year and they've not received.
Okay, so that one.
And we have people that have paid, they didn't receive, they got into us, and we took it up and escalated the matter and it got resolved. But you see, this is part of what we're talking about, the policy end now. Now, we've been able to push NERC to say they're coming out with MAP, right? So that they can solve the issue of metering. Nigerians are not afraid to pay for their meter. They're not afraid to pay for electricity, but they don't want to pay for what they're not using, or they want a meter so that they can measure what they use. So we came up with the idea of MAP. Now, January, February this year, right? In fact, my main objective for those 2 months was to find out what's happening with MAP. So I went down, did all the reports. 120 companies got license of no objection from NERC, right? Out of those 120, only 22 was assigned to the 11 discos, right? Now, 2 years down the lane after the release of the map, what are the challenges? I read my policy report and sent it back to NERC. What NERC told me was that it's not time to review the map regulation yet. That was in February. Now, to my annoyance, by which month did they release, ease off the first phase of the lockdown? That was in June. By June, the next thing NERC did was to say meters are going from 38,000 single phase to 48,000 single phase. Yeah. Why? They say foreign exchange fluctuated. Who was importing anything during lockdown? Do you understand? Now, we are speaking to people power now, so that people understand what to ask for when they are asking questions. Yes. Now, that is the challenge. What happened to the remaining 80-something companies that got license of no objection and didn't give license to become MAPs? Have you just let them go like that? Why don't you invite them, right? So that a disco that has 3 maps before can have 6. So if the first 3 maps that they have are not fulfilling the others that they have, then they can. That is on one end. The other end is this: in this country, on Lagos Ibadan Express Road alone, from here and Mowe, right? We have about 3 different companies that are manufacturing meters. I was still with the GM, one of them this morning on a different radio program. Why is the government not funding those guys? Instead of removing the import duty like they did about 2 or 3 weeks ago, why are they not funding those guys to give Nigerians meters?
Yeah.
Give it to those local manufacturers so that we can create jobs. We don't have to be dependent on the foreign exchange, Then, we can boost our economy within that sector. Then we know that whatever we produce are going to be locally consumed. Now, those are the things we are speaking to as to MAP. MAP as it is needs to be reviewed, and I'm hoping that NERC in their wisdom will do the right thing ASAP.
Right. So there are 2 segments to this show. The other segment where we will be talking in specifics of, actually why things are the way they are in the electricity sector. This segment is a consumer one, and I would like for us to, I like to extract promises from everybody, promises that elicit change in behavior, that can change, bring about change.
Approach to the power sector.
The system. There's too much politics and very little policies. So you've spoken about a number of policy issues now that people don't even understand. They don't even know. Never mind understanding
it.
So usually what will happen is that around election period and other times when politicians want to get things done, they then rally people around politics and identity rather than around policy.
Policies that can.
So what I am advocating through a forum like this, using this example of the electricity war, which is nice and neutral, is that we form power blocks behind those who are doing policy push.
Okay.
Oftentimes the guys doing policy stand alone or stand too few. They need to become forests, whereby the thought of them, scare or ginger or encourage, because there are all different types of politicians.
Yeah.
There might be out there some politicians that want to do the right thing, but they also need people power behind them, because really when politics come, politics will sweep them away.
True.
That sort of thing. So my advocacy, and that starts from the citizens' end, and also and we're just using power up because power up is here.
Yeah.
This is to all sorts of organizations. There's nothing stopping, for example, even your area starting their own. That's a lot of people in an area like that. So you could start by, your area, Akute Community Electricity Group, and then they team up with this, with Power Up, because that's exactly what the politicians do.
In fact, we are going to form a group just for electricity in your area after this
so
program.
That's why I want the promise. You are giving me that promise, because I will follow up on both of you.
Okay. No problem.
So what do we agree that we can do? In the first instance, what are you advising them to do now? 1, 2, what are you advising that community in Cross River to do?
They should take the case to NERC and seek for redress. I know for a certainty that Abuja Electricity Distribution Company has been sanctioned on a number of occasions for that same purpose. I know that the Ikeja has been sanctioned before for that same reason. So it should approach NERC. If it needs help, I can help them take it up. Or we can, why are we saying I? I'm not the only one, please. We can help them take it up and advise them on how to go about it. Even if they need to talk to Port Harcourt CEO today, we can put him on phone right now and have that conversation.
Could that be a promise from us that we contact them?
Yes.
Put them in touch with you, and
then
you
we
help
take it
them
up,
yes. So that can be something we can follow up and say, at least we contacted them.
Yes.
What then happens is a different ballgame, but at least we do that.
Well, we can offer that help,
That's,
yes. That is on one end. For the Akute community, like I said, write a letter to the ENEC Forum Office today, CC them and copy them and drop a copy for them. And you will see the alacrity at which they will respond to your request. And please, before you do that, well, maybe we'll have that conversation later on too. I also need you to go and take up that customer complaints resolution procedure. You need to look at it. You see, 14 days. Now, when you have exhausted that route, then you can head to court. That's why most times when people are saying they want to sue them, I will just laugh. Because when you get to court, what court will say is that there is a pseudo judiciary, wherever, under neck.
Okay.
Right? They are supposed to, you understand, that's what the forum is about. Have you exploited have you explored that opportunity yet? No, go back there. So now that you have engaged them for months, next level is to write to NEC Forum office in Alausa there. Then from NEC Forum office, within 7 days, we're escalating it to Abuja straight. So you'll be talking to Professor James Momond, NLC chairman, directly on your issue. And you know when it gets to that point, even KJLS themselves will want to.
Thank you, gentlemen. I mean, thank you both. What I wanted to do with the first segment is to focus on the justice bit, and then we'll go to the electricity bit. Is it even possible to actually start getting electricity that can power development, power progress, power change? Thank you both, gentlemen, very much. We're going to take a short break. When we come back from the break, we're going to be talking to somebody who has been in the process, right in the middle of the process of privatization from get-go. So he tells us some of those things that you want to talk about. This is the point to talk about them with him right after the break. Right, we're back. Before we went on the break, we were talking about the consumer rights elements of electricity generation in Nigeria. Now we want to talk about actually getting the electricity bit of it. And joining our conversation via Zoom now is somebody who should know, as he has been involved in the entire process up to a point. Mr. Adetayo Adegbemie is legal practitioner and energy sector specialist. He's also a public administrator. He's team leader, power sector reform at the Bureau of Public Enterprises. He was involved in the unbundling of what we knew as NEPA into what we know now. He was also former National Electricity Regulation Commissioner of Market Competition and Rates, which is the sector that oversees fair pricing in the industry. So, very good to have you here, Mr. Adegbemie. How are you? Can you hear me?
Thank you, and it's good to have you to join me in your program.
The issue of actually ever really getting electricity in Nigeria, because it's on one hand to be having problems with something that's inadequate to start with in the first place. Now, the first question I want to ask is, what is it about the privatization that happened in the electricity sector compared to what happened in the telcos, for example?
In one word, it's politics. You talked about the telecom sector. The telecom sector has always been understood to be one in which we pay for what we get, even when it was run by the government. Okay, as far as I know, telecoms in Nigeria has never been subsidized. In Nigeria, energy, whether it's electricity or it's petroleum products or it's natural gas, we've always wanted to have it subsidized. For some reason which I can't exactly fathom, except that our leaders right from independence have led Nigerians to believe that we will always have, quote, free light, okay, or we will have light, as we call it, at no cost. But we forget that electricity, just like telecommunication services, it's a service. And it's a service that requires bringing together a number of inputs. Nobody gets electricity from the air like oxygen or like water from rain. Even water has to be processed. So electricity is actually a product of a manufacturing process, just like your Coca-Cola, your bread, your Bonvita, or even the Gary and Ewedu with assorted that we go to buy from our favorite places in town. We have to pay the cost of producing it if we want it to be constantly available to us. But in the political setting of Nigeria, our people have been led to believe that we will always have electricity provided for us as part of our birthright almost. And so we don't connect with the idea of having to pay for that service so that we can have it in abundant quantity and in the right quality. So it has really become so very political. But when you look at it, and we are dispassionate about it, most of us, even now in Nigeria, should be able to afford to pay for our electricity and use it for our various businesses or in our various homes. Many of us, I would say, would also have alternative sources of electricity. I'm sure your studio, where you are, is probably running on a generator right now, just so that you don't go down during this recording. Or if, I don't know if we're live, but if we're live, then almost certainly 100% we are using power backup. Now, that power backup is a lot more expensive to run than public power supply, even at a, quote, high cost. That high cost that we don't like. It's still cheaper to pay that high cost for public power supply than for us to use our backup, whether it's diesel run or it's a solar connection with batteries, or it's not, even if we're using compressed gas, whatever our backup fuel supply is or fuel source is, it's still more expensive. So the economics of it makes sense when we understand it, but for some reason we still expect that we will have power given to us, even though they are now, this power is now being provided by companies that are privately run. And of course, you and I know that the private sector is not designed to subsidize people to obtain services from them, or to obtain goods and services from the private sector. So really, if I may summarize it without being too technical, I think, or I believe from my experience, that there's been so much political intervention in the energy space. Governments that say we will give to you petroleum products at cheap prices, we will give to you electricity at cheap prices. And we've come to believe that even when we see with our own eyes that these are the end products of a manufacturing process, we still want it at below cost.
All right.
All right. I don't know if I'm
yeah,
trying to make it as simple as I can.
Thank you. Thank
explain
you.
what is really very complex.
Yes, I mean,
political, economic issue.
Thank you very much, because that was a really good way to make it clear and simple to everybody in the studio as well as those who are watching. I was going to take you up and say, isn't it being a bit uncharitable to assume that Nigerians do not want to pay, given the fact that at no time in the history of Nigeria has people been given electricity without interruption, so that they get used to a service that they know they get and therefore pay for it. But then I think you answered it in the second part of your comments.
I don't know that we have not had 100% uninterrupted power supply, but we've had, within my own memory, a pretty good level of service that people appreciated. And this was in the period 2014, 2013, 2014, 2015. You know the thing about electricity, you know the funny thing about electricity? It's like a good meal, or it's like food. We are not designed to remember, and we shouldn't even remember, because we should take it for granted when we had it really good. We often remember only the times when we had a meal that made us have a running tummy or made us feel sick. Same thing with electricity. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, our experience with electricity has been uniformly, we believe, bad. But we've actually had it at some time in the past, in the recent past actually, quite good. So good that there was actually a discussion in Nigeria in the first quarter of 2015 and the latter part of 2014 about, is it time for us to discard our generators? I remember that I was in NERC at the time, and I was in charge of setting tariffs, and I was keeping a very, very close watch on the public reaction to two things. First, in the last quarter of 2014, we had pretty good, very, very, very good supply in the country. People were talking about 18, 20, 22 hours of constant power supply, very few, and even when they came, very short outages. And we're actually beginning to entertain the thought that could this be something that can be so sustained that we begin to forget about the fact that we have generators in our homes and our businesses and in our factories and in our offices and things like that. Now, to come to the other part of the question about whether it's at the policy level that we have this interference, we've always had it. Don't forget, it wasn't until 2013 actually, that you had the private sector enter into the business of electricity distribution, right? Electricity generation. And even till now, we still have government providing electricity transmission. Like you said, it's a chicken and egg. It's not quite a chicken and egg, and I'll tell you why. But we feel, many of us believe that you must first have good quality service before pay for it. Okay, and so the conventional wisdom was, well, let us build up to a point in time when we have good quality service, and then we'll begin to pay for that good quality service. It doesn't quite work out that way. And so what we find is that the government acceded to that because it was a populist demand. And we found, like in many countries, it's not a Nigerian thing. In many countries, subsidies are as much economic as they are also political. Energy is heavily subsidized. And it will probably have remained subsidized if Nigeria could afford it. But we can't afford to subsidize. We don't even have enough for all of us. We have publicly available to us every day from this generating plant and 11 distribution companies, less than 5,000 megawatts of capacity. But all of us, you, me, our various businesses, our schools, our factories, we have probably, 40, 50,000 megawatts of capacity that we provide for ourselves. So Nigeria enjoys something like, as far as I can tell, 50, 60,000 megawatts, of which less than 5, all right? Or total capacity available, even 12, not more than 12 or 13,000 megawatts, is from the public side, which is what we should depend on. But we don't depend on it because it is not enough and it's not delivered to us in enough quantity. So we find ourselves having to resort to our generators. Now, the argument is, like I said earlier on, a very simple one. We would all not use our generators because they are very expensive if we could. So it begs the question, why then do we not want to pay a lower price, but an economic price for the energy that is publicly available so that it can actually be delivered to us in better quantity? Again, like I said, it's a political question. It's either we want to, we think that electricity is our share of the national cake, or like you have argued, you want it to be given to you constantly and in good quality before you pay an economic price for it, or we've just been told by our political leaders that don't worry, we'll give you electricity. So it's like I said, I come back to the point, it's a political question. And it is because we appeal to our political leaders that it has now become political also, when it's actually a very simple economic question. We don't ask our politicians to interfere in the price of bread, in the price of Coca-Cola, in the cost of pepper and tomatoes in the market. We pay the economic cost of those things, all right, because they are important to us. But electricity, which is even more important to us as a country, because it is the bedrock of modern existence, we, for some reason which I honestly cannot fathom, we want politicians to interfere in it and make sure that we have it available to us at a low price, when in fact we should be asking ourselves, what is the right price? The right price for any product, any service, is the reasonable cost of delivering, the economic cost of delivering that service to us.
Will subsidy removal bring a situation where the privatized, now maybe properly privatized power sector in Nigeria would be able to provide economically viable power to Nigerians? So we see if Nigerians are truly unwilling to pay, or if just they never got it. Will subsidy removal solve the problem?
The answer simply to your question is yes, it should. And I'll tell you why. We don't have 5,000 megawatts, we have 50 or 60, right? But something like 80 to 90% of that is privately owned. The conundrum is, how do you switch the imbalance from depending for 80% of our power supply on expensive alternatives to depending for our power supply for 80% on the public grid, which is cheaper?
Right.
That is the strategic objective that we should have as a country. And we will not be able to achieve that strategic objective until the private sector, money and management, can come into electricity. Now, the only difference here is that, unlike putting up a restaurant, I can hire a building, nice it up, and in 2 weeks, I am selling my beans and dodo, my ewedu and gbegiri with amala to whoever it is. But it's going to take me 2.5 years, 3 years to build a power plant, 2 years to build a transmission line, and a number of months to install electricity, or even a year plus to install a distribution system constructed in any locality. So it takes time to put up these capital assets. That's the only difference. But the moment you have a situation where the private sector can see that the revenue streams coming out of the business, like they saw with telecoms in 2001 and piled into it and put so much money into telecoms that we've all forgotten how difficult it was to maintain telecom services in the country 20 years ago. The only reason why you've had that investment in telecom is because every telecoms provider is assured that it will charge for the service. And that is why, if you are, I'm sorry to sound so patronizing, but if you are old enough in Nigeria, you will remember a time when it cost to get this handset in my hands, 120,000 naira just for a SIM card. Can you believe that? A SIM card in Nigeria cost 120,000 naira. What we now get for 500 naira. All right? And it was only because it was so scarce, it was so limited to a very small group of elite people that they could afford to charge that. But the moment the private sector came into telecoms, and you could build out networks across the country, and debt providers, equity providers, banks, infrastructure funds all put money into it, it became a commodity.
Yes, yes.
Telecoms is almost commoditized now.
Yes.
So the same thing, the same point, but it took us, it's taken us 20 years. It took us 10 years, first of all, to get to, I believe, about 60, 70 million subscribers. And it's taking us another 10 years to almost double that, or less than 10 to almost double that. So that's only the result of steady and constant investment, backed or supported by steady and constant economic revenues or tariffs that are being charged that justify capital going in there. The same thing has to happen with electricity. And unless we enable that steady stream of revenues to come through, which is us, you and I, paying for this, then in no other way can I say that we'll be assured of having that availability, that constant access, that reliable supply of energy. Which brings me to a certain point I need to make.
And you have to
the problem with subsidies in Nigeria, they have never, and I repeat, subsidies have never been enjoyed by the people that deserve them. Right? Let's take electricity. Electricity in Nigeria is an elite urban luxury. Right? And I say it again, electricity in Nigeria is an elite urban luxury. Our folk in the villages, they don't enjoy, the people who we say, on whose behalf we have been fighting, in quotes, for subsidies in the village, they don't have connections. So you can't subsidize a person that is not connected to an electricity grid. It's that simple. It's you and I in the city, right, who want to enjoy our little sinecures, our little privileges, one of which is electricity that costs next to nothing to deliver to us. And that's why we went on the streets.
Well, the good news is that the subsidy is going, and we are now going to see real growth in the sector.
But I don't want to come across as justifying the poor quality of service that our distribution companies have given to Nigerians.
Right.
So let's be fair. They were told a certain thing, that's the new investors or the current investors 10 years ago. They were told a certain thing and it wasn't delivered to them. However, I know for a fact that they could have given us a certain level of service, which they didn't do, and they had a justifiable reason for doing the minimum, the barest minimum that they needed to do. And it was that the government of the day, and each succeeding government for that matter, hasn't really delivered on a certain number of promises. But this is not to justify some of the really bad behaviors that we've seen from our Nigerian discourse, however. So I think the equities are on both sides. It's not a one-sided set of faults that you find here. It's actually on both sides.
On both sides. Mr. Ekpo, thank you very much, especially for your patience with getting this set up and going, and for the insights you have brought to this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It'll be nice talking to you all.
All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back from the break, we're going to put everything we've heard together right after the break. Right, welcome back. But what did you make of what Mr. Ekpo had to say?
The problem is not that Nigerians don't want to pay for electricity. But the issue or the challenges Nigerians face is, why make me pay for what I'm not consuming? Estimated billing. What has the system been able to do to resolve the issue of estimated billing?
I wanted also to hear you as a consumer listening to that.
If I get value for what I pay for, I would love to pay more. If you give me lights 18 hours, I know I get value for it. I will pay for that. But why you give me light for just 2 hours a day, and you pay it for a month, and you still give me the same value in money? Are you still telling me to pay the same amount of money for that same thing? It doesn't justify it.
All right. I have to take a few questions and comments from a very, very patient audience, and we'll end up after that.
I'm going to relate this to myself. I actually got a shop in Surulere recently, and the first time they brought the bill, it was about 5,000. Okay, good, I paid. And the period of time for which they bring the light and they take it, it's always been the same. You know, the second month is the same amount. Going to the third month, it went to about 10,000. I mean, 6 months down the line, it was like 15,000 naira. So I'm like, it's the same period of time that this light is being supplied. Why is the price going up? I mean, there's no justification for that. And I don't know how true that is. I heard that there are some parts in Surulere that they actually don't pay their bills, places like Ijesha, parts of Mushi, that they don't pay. If NEPA should, PHCN or the authorities should come, they actually chase them off. And then they are using that to, you know, push to the parts that actually pay, and they use their money to fill up. You know, I mean, I don't understand the psychology behind that. Thank you.
And again, on the other hand, they say something that, okay, maybe the farmers, maybe like we're not ready or willing to pay for the value of electricity. I don't agree with that at all, because I trust my Nigerian man and woman that if you're giving us a good supply of electricity per day, my Nigerian man and woman would pay for that electricity. That I can tell you. Even the ones that are not educated among us, they would pay. So please, I'm using this platform and this opportunity to please appeal to our government that they should even be human for once and tackle this electricity issue, because if there's electricity power supply, if there's enough fairness of power supply all over the country, then we'll be able to make more income for ourselves. Let's be honest. And the country will be more developed.
Okay, we not paying for what we get. I use prepaid. I'm a prepaid user. So, I mean, if I don't buy a card, I won't get light. So, if they really want to make that happen, they can actually make everybody prepaid users and let's pay for what we deserve. I am a prepaid user and I don't have 4 hours light. I don't understand how that works. But to me, I would say it's also favorable in a way because it's pay as you go. So do everybody pay as you go and let it be, okay, we are paying for what we want. If I want a 1,000 naira worth of light, I pay for one, I buy card 1,000. When my 1,000 finishes, I don't have light.
All right. I'm going to take everyone at the same time, because a lot of it seem to be comments here.
My question is, talking about the transformer and the prepaid meters, I want to know, is this supposed to be freely given to the masses, to the community, or we're supposed to pay for it?
It's not your job as a consumer to buy transformers. That's on one end. On the issue of meters, originally the discos are meant to install meters free of charge, right? In fact, the cost of metering is part of that money we pay per kilowatt hour, right? But it's because the discos have been unable to. I mean, we looked at it. My organization, for instance, we started to look at it and say, what is, out of 8 out of every 10 complaints is about billing. And if you have a meter, you don't care about billing. So why don't you bring in other investors to come and invest in metering? Make them part of the discourse. I mean, give them 10% of the discourse, for instance, and let them be part of it. But by the time NERC came out in their wisdom, they said that the new maps should be subjected to the discourse. So the discourse that we appoint you as a map. That's why we are still having problems with paying and doing everything. And at the end of that regulation, what should happen is that money that you paid originally to acquire that meter should have been paid back to you.
I knew this particular one would be emotive, because that is one thing that, you know, unites all of us Nigerians. I do hope that a change will come, basically because we as Nigerians do start to demand it, in a way that we cannot be ignored. Thank you for the time. Thank you for coming, both of you. Thank you, everybody, for your time and your patience. And I hope that you also will start to, young people. Thank you for watching. I know that this is also one of the ones that you have comments, questions, and suggestions for us. Send them to us on all our social media platforms. So that's Public Eye NG is where you'll find us on all the social media platforms. Get involved. Watch yourself. We're watching you. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.